OG, they must have a plan for this. It is something that they normally ban regardless of what side that they're on, and by leaving it open, the automatic response normally from Origen here would be the Aphelios, but we're going to get to see upset Ezreal. I'm excited about this. There's always jokes about it, there's always talked about it, but you can't disregard this man as a fantastic Ezreal player. The automatic response will be Yuumi. I don't know if they have to lock it in right now, but I feel like that with the Ornn still up and available, it makes sense to just lock that in. We know that Origen is more than happy to flex this into the middle lane, and honestly, it's normally where it goes because Alphari's not really the tank player on the team medic. It's normally Nukeduck in the mid lane, so I think that the way in which Origen have responded to giving them two quite big comfort picks. Let's see now how Fnatic respond.
Fnatic obviously have a few different options here. Looking towards the jungle role is something we tend to see on this first set of picks before we get into the second ban phase. There's the Gragas lock for Selfmade. Oh, it's Gragas Yasuo. It's Gragas Yasuo Vedius. Already we got a little bit of spice coming out here from Fnatic.
Now, the interesting here from Fnatic is that what they've done is they've called out the fact that that Ornn is probably in the mid lane. They're saying, Alphari, you're not going to play that Ornn top, and even if you do, they can send the Yasuo top lane. We know that Bwipo is a very comfortable top lane Yasuo player, and they already have this inbuilt synergy. So they've got the AP jungle, they've got the AD in the mid lane, they've got the synergy of Gragas and Yasuo, and it's setting up for a very powerful 2v2 combo.
And now we'll see what Origen decide to eliminate in this second phase. It's going to be Nautilus, get rid of some of Hylissang's engaged supports. Of course, anything that teams up well with the Yasuo definitely makes sense to ban. Rakan already removed, Nautilus getting taken away, maybe even a Thresh ban from Origen could work out, but of course, if it is fasting Senna, you usually want to team it up with something like a Tahm-Kench or a Nautilus who can farm a little bit safer.
You've also got to take into consideration the Galio. I think that it is something that we've seen a few times around the world. We've definitely seen it here in Europe from a G2 bot lane, for instance. And I think that it offers quite a lot of utility. It provides another knock-up for the Yasuo to take advantage of as well. But we'll have to see what direction and what gets banned away. I agree with you. I think that normally Thresh would be a ban, but do you really want to funnel resources into the Thresh would be the ultimate question. So we'll have to wait and
does Senna want to lane with Thresh? You know, there's a little bit of bad blood there, Vedius. Not sure.
That is very true.
They want to be together in that bottom lane. Aatrox is the ban instead. Take that away from Bwipo in the top lane. We have talked, of course, a lot about how Alphari and Bwipo are two of the standout top laners in our league, and I'm actually really interested to see how this next phase of picks goes, because you have the option to last pick top for Alphari and try and counteract something that Fnatic could do.
That Morgana ban is super interesting, Medic, because you know, when you look at Morgana, you'd think as a champion she would typically be played in support. But you've got to remember, I forget where the jungle changes happened, where a lot of champions got buffed to do more damage to jungle monsters. I wonder if Fnatic is looking to ban that Morgana away as a potential jungle Morgana for Xerxe, or whether it was something that they were worried that Ornn would be played top and then Morgana would be put mid into the Yasuo, and he would struggle to get those kind of knockups.
Yeah, that super sort of funnel into the Ezreal composition that we used to see, you know, when in the days of Juggermore, when you could just put everything on an AD carry. But a support pick we didn't talk about that we have already seen from Fnatic is the Xerxe. Of course, could be played in... No, it's going to be support. I'm trying to work out if it could be anywhere else. A Gragas could be support and Xerxe could be jungle, I guess. But
wait, no, it could be Xerxe top.
Could be Xerxe top as well, actually. Yeah, Bwipo could take that one into the top lane.
And Pyke would be very classic Hylissang when we think about it.
Ooh, Zilean.
Okay, we've got quite an interesting comp here, Medic. We don't really know where everything is going yet, so I'm going to wait to see how Fnatic rearrange themselves, but this comp already looks like it is very strong in terms of scaling. When you look at Origen's comp off the get-go, right, you're kind of thinking, okay, they have the late game Ezreal, they have the late game engage from Ornn, they've got the late game value from Gangplank, but look at Fnatic's late game. They have really strong side lane pressure with the Yasuo. Zilean offers so much utility in the late game just because of it's Zilean. Zilean does these things where he can insta-speed you up. And if a Cloud Drake is on the map, I don't know if you saw that LCK game, Medic, Gen G versus T1, I think it was, where the Zilean had 75% CDR on his ultimate. Like, the ultimate had a 12-second cooldown. Like, it was ridiculous. So, the Drakes are going to be super important in this game, but I think that Zilean support the fact that he's going to be getting these resources, assuming the Rekkles will be playing the fasting Senna that we are used to seeing. I think that the scaling from Fnatic is actually extremely strong. They have very good engage, they have very easy knockups for the Yasuo to rely on, they have good damage late game with the Yasuo and the Senna, and I think that they're going to be very difficult to kill. I think it's going to be super fascinating. And one of the things you've always got to think about when an Ezreal, I like to think of his scaling as how easy is he to kill. Well, Fnatic actually have a lot of tools to dive onto the backline. You have the Zilean speed up, you have the long range dive from the Xerxe, you have the Gragas barrel that as long as the ultimate lands, Yasuo is going to be able to follow up from it. So I feel like that Fnatic have so many tools to dive on this backline, and I love this quick adaptation that they've made in the draft to go for this Zilean pick. The first time that we're going to be seeing it from Fnatic in the bot side. I'm excited, Medic. I think we're going to get some interesting stuff going into our first game of this best of 5.
I mean, you can always trust Fnatic to bring out something just a little bit spicy when you get on into the draft. Mithy, this split has been playing around with his pieces, saying, oh, we could put Xerxe top, we could put Xerxe in the bottom lane. Origen, a little bit more conventional from them in terms of draft. You know, you're looking at Alphari's Gangplank, you're looking at Nukeduck on the Ornn, Upset on a scaling AD carry, but the question has to be, how safe can he be? Because across history, Fnatic tended to have the advantage in this matchup. Of course, the last time they faced in a best of 5, as you said, Vedius, it was Origen who came out with the win because they were ready, because they had come in very prepared for the draft. But you do wonder, Origen seems to have gone for the norm, and it's Fnatic who are bringing out new things in this draft.
Yeah, so just want to give a quick update. There is a brief pause going on. Fnatic have reported to league officials that there is a bit of a headphone issue, and assuming that there are no other issues, it should be resolved very quickly, and we're going to be jumping into game. So while that is being resolved, Medic, you talked a little bit about Origen's comp. I think that when you look at it on paper, you know, we were talking about how I think the scaling is pretty strong, and I think that when you look at Ezreal Yuumi, like, it's a very difficult duo to deal with, especially in the late game, because the healing is exceptionally strong, the peel is incredibly strong, everything about that duo just gets more obnoxious the later into the game that you go. And then with the Gangplank, you have global pressure, which means that it's difficult to dive the Ezreal Yuumi in the early game, not only just because they're a difficult duo to dive, but also because at level 6, that GP ult is going to come down, clear away that minion wave, it's going to make it even more obnoxious to actually set up any kills, because you're not going to have, you're going to have that extra zone control to play around, and the fact that Ornn ultimate can engage from such a long range. You know, when you look at this comp in isolation, you're thinking there's no way that this comp can get outscaled. But I'm looking at this Fnatic comp, and I'm just like, I think that they found a very creative way to get around the Ezreal Yuumi, and so much of it comes off the back of this Xerxe pick. Now, admittedly, in the early laning phase, I think the Xerxe will struggle against the GP. GP is known for having a very strong level 1 to 3 because of how much passive burn damage he has and how easily he can get into your face and just do damage. On top of that, with the Trundle, he's going to be great at taking away some of the resistances that the Xerxe provides, making it easier for OG to actually play front-to-back teamfights. But I think that in terms of drawn-out teamfights, in terms of sustained damage, Fnatic just very much has the edge here, and I'm curious as to how OG are going to be able to find a way around this, because you can't exactly invest all your resources into the mid lane because, hey, Wind Wall, that's going to block your own ultimate. That long-range engage that you're relying on, that's gone. The Gangplank, what are you going to try and dive a Xerxe with his passive as well? I think that there are so many things and challenges that Origen are going to have to overcome from this Galaxy Brain draft that Fnatic have come up with in order for them to find an early advantage and then get to a point where they are in a stronger position to actually teamfight against Fnatic.
There's actually some parallels to be drawn to the regular season as well. The first time these two teams met, Origen won with a conventional draft because they were more prepared for the start of the season. But then Fnatic, when they matched the next time, were able to dive bomb on the Soraka and totally destroy him. It's going to be a great game, Vedius. I'm looking forward to it. On to Summoner's Rift we go. First game of what I hope is 5, but what could quite possibly be a few less than that. I was looking at Hylissang and what summoner spells he decided to run here, because I thought they were running double heal in the bottom lane. That's not going to be the case. It's teleport on Hylissang. Now, what this does allow a Zilean to do is TP into fights and actually totally change the way a fight is playing. If he sees someone dying in the top lane and he's level 6, he's basically a Shen ultimate with a little bit of a delay. It's like, I'm coming in, as long as you can survive for the next 2.5 seconds while I challenge my teleport, I'm then going to hit you with that chrono shift and bring you back to life.
Yeah, and what's the first Drake medic? It's a mountain. That means that Cloud could be an option, and that's the Drake we're always going to be thinking about, because ever since I saw that Cloud Zilean with the 3 Cloud Drakes and 75% CDR on his ult, I was like, yeah, okay, never again can that be allowed to happen because of how strong it is in the late game, and Hylissang is going to get all of the resources. It definitely looks like Rekkles will be playing the fasting Senna, and when we came into the draft, we talked about how Origen, they're typically banning this away. They don't like to play the Senna themselves, and usually they don't like to play against it. So the fact that they let it through suggested that they had a plan and they were ready to play against it. But I don't know if they were expecting a Zilean in the bot lane. So I'm excited to see how Origen play around this. And the other thing I want to draw our attention to, Medic, is this Conqueror for Xerxe in the top lane. I think it's super cool because I think it's very easy for a Xerxe to build those Conqueror stacks, but I also think it really helps with your sustain. Xerxe, when he's able to pick up those blobs, already gets a decent amount of sustain, but when you have all those Conqueror stacks as well, it only adds insult to injury. So I think that in the later stages, it just makes the Xerxe that much harder to kill.
And you can see that's what Bwipo's trying to do here. If you trade and then get onto one of your blobs before Alphari can step it out, can squash it under his heel, you actually get a huge amount of healing back, and you're basically trading without losing too much life. However, Alphari hits 2 first, so he's going to have that push onto Bwipo. And as you said, it's not an easy laning phase for the Xerxe early on just because of that trial by fire and the constant parlay spam that Alphari is going to put him under.
Yeah, I think that when we look at this 1v1, one of the big issues that Bwipo is going to have is that he's playing Doran Shield into Corrupting Pot, so Alphari naturally has more sustain. So while that initial trade actually looked quite promising, of course, because Alphari has all that additional sustain in his back pocket, that's going to force Bwipo to play defensively and rely on the healing of both his passive and the Doran's shield. He's going to keep getting bullied under this tower. We can see that Trundle, not right now, setting up for a dive. Trying to dive the Xerxe this early on into the game is dangerous. One of the things I did like about that early trade from Bwipo is I think it forced the wave to push faster than Alphari would have wanted it, because in an ideal world, he could either set up a slow push for a potential level 3 dive, or he just wants to push the wave in so that he can get an early bounce back. But you can see how Bwipo is actually keeping the wave closer to his tower for a much longer period of time, which is why I think he went for that early force and trade.
Both the junglers meeting in the river. It's Selfmade who gets the Scuttle Crab. Nemesis is going to land the knockup from the Steel Tempest, but Nukeduck should just be able to walk this one away. Nemesis is running Ignite in that middle lane on the Yasuo. Doesn't have the teleport, but we do have 2 TPs on either team, of course, because Hylissang is taking it in the bottom lane, and Nukeduck and Alphari are taking it on the side of Origen.
We can see the early kill coming through from Alphari as we have a bit of a trade between Xerxe and Nemesis.
I actually really like the TP from Alphari because it means that he can get down and fight for this Scuttle Crab. Origen not willing to give double Scuttle over to Selfmade. Because Alphari has the push, he can come down here and help Xerxe secure it. Nukeduck also sacrificing some of his health bar to make sure they had the prio on that crab.
Also, Alphari was able to get the waves pushed underneath the tower, and so now that wave is actually bouncing back towards him, which is going to put Bwipo in an awkward spot. We have to note the fact that Nemesis was forced to flash because of the fact that the pillar was set up by Xerxe, and of course, Nukeduck can use that pillar to actually set up the knock-up combo with his E. Bwipo now in some trouble.
He's going to channel, but the Pillar of Filth is just going to stop that in its tracks. Can't quite land the barrel, so Bwipo only has to burn the flash, doesn't pay for it with his life. But a good Pillar of Ice there from Xerxe will stop Bwipo from being able to escape easily.
Yeah, good interrupt there from Xerxe. You've got to remember that the pillar does in fact create a very small knockup that even Yasuo can use his ultimate off of, and he was able to find that interrupt onto Bwipo. The positioning and timing is very important, so well played there from Xerxe. And it looks like the Bwipo will be the focus, and now Bwipo's lane state is in a very awkward spot. He's forced to overextend because this wave is slowly pushing into Alphari. Alphari's doing what he can to try and set up a freeze here. Now Bwipo will go back to base TP, but of course he's sitting on top of a ward right now, so Alphari's going to make his life even more obnoxious. But notice Xerxe, he's now passed towards his bot side camps, and he's going to make his way back up towards top, which means that they can look for another gank onto Bwipo. And the fact that Fnatic have no flash on both mid laner and top laner actually gives Xerxe some options in terms of early gank, because his focus isn't on bot lane. You don't want to gank the Ezreal Yuumi. You want to avoid playing around that at all costs, because you just want to allow that to farm, scale up, and then hit that strong mid to late game spike, usually with the Trinity Force combo along with the Muramman.
We saw Rekkles and Hylissang there looking to see if they could do anything towards the mid lane. Nukeduck had a ward in the bush, so not too much is going to happen, and the wave was pushed out for Fnatic and now is bouncing back towards them, so they don't actually lose too much in the bottom lane from that. But being able to catch the wave, and Hylissang farming that one up means that Fnatic are in okay shape. There will be a slight CS difference in the bottom lane. I think Upset now with the Sheen is going to be able to farm pretty easily, but it's nothing too monumental as of yet, Vedius.
Honestly, I think Zilean is one of the hardest champions in the game to last hit on because his bombs ruin everything, especially in the early game. Like, they do such an awkward amount of damage, you can't just set up easy wave clear, which means that when you try to use the bombs to like thin out the wave, it really does screw a lot of things up. So I'm not surprised that Hylissang is a little bit behind. You actually see the poke from this duo is obnoxious. We know it is, and while Rekkles and Hylissang do have a decent amount of poke on their own, I think that the sustain from the Yuumi can slightly outmatch. So I think this matchup ultimately is just going to ebb back and forth. No one's going to really play for prio. There's also not a lane that either team really wants to play around. The top and mid lanes are where the focus is going to be, as Bwipo uses his jump early this time. Yeah. He doesn't want to get interrupted by the pillar, but he must be aware that Xerxe is hanging around.
Well, they put the control ward up towards the tri-bush. They didn't spot Xerxe on it, I don't believe, but Bwipo continues to trade. It looks like Selfmade's on his way up here as well. Bwipo uses the Let's Bounce, going to try and jump himself around as Selfmade comes up. Cannon Barrage used as well. Selfmade with the Predator looking for this fight. The jump in, Alphari's going to flash away from it. Selfmade is here now, going to land the body bot, and Alphari will be able to get underneath the tower, but you can see that Nemesis is on his way across as well. Now, this is going to be hard for Origen to get away from because Nemesis can just dash through. There's the Ignite. Alphari might just die to this. He doesn't have any potions. He doesn't have any stacks. And first blood goes over to Nemesis and Fnatic.
Great roam from Nemesis up towards the top side of the map. Fnatic, it looks like they're not done yet, though. They want to try and set up the dive onto Xerxe. There's no minion wave yet.
Oh, the cast doesn't connect. Nemesis is going to try and juke his way through. Yeah, let's get the last breath. The Call of the Forge God coming out as well, but Nemesis puts up the wind wall. Of course, can block out Nukeduck. There's the Dawning Shadow. Xerxe able to dodge away from that one as well. Nemesis goes back in towards the minions. He's surviving. Nukeduck has to flash away. One more auto. The minions on Nemesis aren't quite enough damage right now, and Nukeduck caught underneath the tower. Nemesis alive, and Fnatic 2-0 up.
Wow, Fnatic just straight up outplayed that from Origen. That was beautifully done. Nemesis, I thought his life was over. He didn't have the flash. There was no way he was going to get out, but he makes the outplay happen. Great Yasuo mechanics coming through. So he knows that the Ignite is more than enough to kill. Alphari's Orange is still on cooldown, and as you identified, Medic, no health pot for him to utilize to get him out of that situation. Then they want to set up this dive. They do see Nukeduck coming up, but here, notice the positioning of Nemesis. Like, great combo from Nukeduck, but then they immediately turn their attention onto Xerxe to force him out of the fight. The wind wall completely prevents Nukeduck from being able to secure that kill. And then the ultimate, all the way from the bot lane, actually gives Nemesis a big enough shield that the minions aren't enough to kill Nemesis. He's doing what he can to get these small bits of lifesteal off of the minions using his double Doran's blades. And then he ends up getting the passive that I forget the name of from his runes that ends up giving him enough health to disengage.
Yeah, incredible stuff there. And I think that sort of play really exemplifies the difference between Fnatic and Origen in the early game. We looked at how quick Fnatic are to play in these, during the second half of the split, and they have a very high kills a minute score. 0.91 kills go down in their early games. You have a quicker game time than Origen, and at 15 minutes, they average 4.1 kills. That's the second highest in the league. Compare that to Origen, who are sitting lowest in combined kills a minute, 7th in game time, and 9th in kills at 15. Fnatic love this early action. It's where they thrive.
Yeah, and I think it's reminiscent of what we come to expect, right? And I think that Fnatic love to play this hard-fast style, typically playing through top lane a lot in the early game, and then they allow Bwipo to move around the map and start applying a lot more pressure. And I think that they also love to rely on their mechanics, knowing that in these situations, it's very G2-esque, where sometimes they'll look at these 50-50 situations, can we outplay here? And then they're able to make it work because of the talent on their roster. And I think that they prepped very well in the draft. Or I think it's better to say they adapted very well in the draft. They clearly came in with, okay, Senna is left up and available, let's try and grab it. But then the way in which they evolved and pivoted, expecting the Ornn to go into the mid lane, drafting the Yasuo, allowing you to have permanent priority in this mid lane to give Nemesis the freedom to roam. They then set up the dive onto Alphari as well, and they found themselves 2 kills. We already talked at length in the draft about how I think the later this game goes, the harder it's going to be for Origen to play against this comp. And I think that right now, with the position that Fnatic's in, they're setting themselves up nicely for the mid to late game.
Yeah, already 1,000 gold in the lead. You've got Rekkles down in the bottom lane, got himself an Executioner's Calling early to try and deal with the healing that comes out from a Yuumi. Xerxe trying to get up here towards the top lane. Bwipo is going to step forward. Xerxe comes in, looks for the pillar, lands it, but Bwipo can use that flash. It's back off cooldown, so he's able just to jump away.
So Origen not slowing down. Xerxe has invested a few ganks now towards the top side of the map, but Fnatic are not slowing down either. Nemesis already on the roam. Going to use that blast cone to get some information. And primarily, this transition up towards the top side of the map is to help Bwipo push out this wave, but also threaten a dive.
Well, it's very threatened right now. You can see how far back Alphari's having to stand. Usually one of the key contributors to his team in terms of damage across the course of a game. Shutting him down is so important. Nemesis is going to step forward here. Xerxe in the right position at the right time. There's the knock-up. Nemesis does still have his flash, so Origen aren't really going to be able to get too much more out of this. But as far as you can put Alphari behind, the better here for Fnatic. Let's bounce use. Bwipo's just going to try and trade, gobbling up all those goblets, and doesn't have another target for the stretching strike. So just going to be able to take it down this turret plate. And with the Cannon Barrage, Alphari will clear out the wave to make sure that he can't get dived.
And what's fascinating here is you can see that Bwipo is starting to win out on these 1v1 trades, and we talked about how strong the Conqueror is on Zac. I think we got to see a great example there where his health bar just didn't go down. But now Origen, they're moving on the map. To the bot side they go.
For Hylissang. Meanwhile, in the top lane, Selfmade's popped the Predator. Alphari, you don't have Flash, man. You don't really have a way out, and he is already done. In the bot side, nothing really happened. The gank didn't work. Hylissang took a lot of health, but was able to survive.
Yeah, and Origen, they're struggling right now. Fnatic, they were able to mitigate the pressure that was applied on the bot side of the map. Hylissang did use his ultimate. I wasn't sure if it was actually needed or not. Either way, Origen, they don't find a kill. Fnatic extend their lead to 3, and they're sitting at a 2.5k gold lead right now, Medic. This is the clean level of play that we come to expect from our top 2, which is quite the stark contrast to what we saw from G2 yesterday.
Look at that gold lead in the mid lane, Vedius. It's a grand. It's over 1,000 gold, and we're only 12 minutes in. Yes, Nemesis has been involved in those kills in the top lane, but he's also just out farming Nukeduck, who hasn't really had the opportunity to influence the map that much. 13 minutes in, Fnatic in the driver's seat in this game.
It's the nature of the matchup, Medic. And again, this is where we have to credit Fnatic for their adaptation in the draft. They saw that early Ornn pick and they were like, it's going to go to Nukeduck. Alphari doesn't play this champion. The only other option is to send it top, and even if they do send it top, we can put our Zac into it, and we know that we're going to be able to scale just fine. This is actually probably an easier matchup than playing against the Gangplank, so we're more than happy to take this, and because they got that Yasuo into Ornn, you get a free lane, he gets to freely scale, and now he's in a fantastic position. But Origen, they're not done yet. They're moving their members up towards the top side.
They walked over the Scuttle Crab. They're going to get knocked up and almost killed. There's the Dawning Shadow. Alphari will take a chunk. I think Origen were baiting, trying to make the fight happen before Upset and Destiny arrived, and then they would have had reinforcements. Rifthold called here in the top lane. Origen are trying to make something happen, but a Rifthold this early before the plates have fallen off is not the best. As in, before you've taken multiple plates on the turret isn't the best, because it just doesn't take you the tower. Meanwhile, Rekkles and Hylissang in the bottom lane are going to get first turret just for free.
Yeah. I mean, this is not normally what you expect. Normally when one team gets the Herald, they're able to move first on the map, and they use that Herald to secure the first tower advantage, but it's now Origen who's behind in tempo, and they're not even going to be able to take this turret down. Bwipo, he does this thing on Zac where he's always at like this amount of health, like 40 to 50%, and he just never seems to drop below it. Medic, he seems impossible to get him below this point just because he utilizes his passive so well, and he's able to avoid any sort of danger, utilizing his E and his ultimate, and he's just holding the line for now. He's not afraid of an Ezreal Yuumi dive, and look, Fnatic have already rotated their bot lane into mid lane, and now they can use this duo pressure to start gaining control over the river. The Cloud Drake is spawning next, so we're not going to get a Cloud Soul. There's not going to be this 75% CDR Zilean, but we will get to see some, like, I wonder if it's either Infernal or Ocean, both still very strong souls for both teams to look for.
I mean, any soul is a good soul, but as you said, Ocean, so powerful. We saw how effective it can be when Selfmade's Olaf yesterday. He just ran into 4 people and was still able to survive. But Fnatic will secure the first 2 dragons of the game. We have seen Origen throughout the course of the split be willing to sacrifice early Drakes in exchange for lane leads, in exchange for CS leads. But this game, they haven't even been able to get those. They are behind, and Fnatic have good scaling. I'm not going to say superior scaling, because it always matters how much Upset can get out of a fight.
Well, I honestly don't, mate. I think you can. I think Fnatic do have the strongest scaling here because, like, let's look at how Fnatic now play this game moving forward, right? They can send Nemesis to a side lane if they want. Who's going to stop him? The Gangplank? But no. He doesn't even have his first item yet. Blade of the Ruined King already finished for Nemesis. Wow. He has a level advantage, and he's running Ignite, which means that he's always going to win that 1v1 every single time. Okay, so maybe Origen can team fight. Oh, can they? How are they going to get past the wind wall? How are they going to get past
Upset
this?
Medic? Upset is just dead. Rekkles stood in the front of Upset, baited him in, and Selfmade was there in time to get the fight. Rekkles did have to burn his heal, but he's currently sitting pretty at about 70 stacks on this Senna, so he is very powerful, even if his CS score doesn't look like it.
Yeah, I think that things are just going to get so difficult for Origen now. Like, they found themselves at such a massive early deficit, and now their options are extremely limited. They can look for... Once the GP gets his completed Trinity Force, they might be able to kill Rekkles now.
True shot barrage, Rekkles flashes in a straight line, but somehow steps to the side of it. The Chrono Shift comes out just in time, and now Nemesis is chasing Nukeduck off towards the top side. He flashes, misses the Keyblade, but lands the final auto attack to get the kill. Meanwhile, Xerxe is running down towards the bottom side. Rekkles, full HP. Hylissang flashes forward with the time warp slow. And this is devastation. It's 6-0 Vedius, 6,000 gold lead to Fnatic.
It's a massacre. It's a massacre, Medic. Like, OG are trying, but they just can't. They couldn't kill Rekkles there. Even though he was extremely low, the power of Zilean to bring him back to life. The Rod of Ages already at 6 stacks for Hylissang. Like, Fnatic are just absolutely obliterating Origen right now. I was not expecting our first game of this best of 5 to be this one-sided, but again, I love the adaptations that Fnatic made in the draft. I love how they've played this early game, and they've just been systematically dismantling Origen across the board.
It is a sight to behold, to be sure. Fnatic stepping up throughout the course of this split. I think when we came to the end of the split, a lot of people were debating whether they or G2 seemed the best in the regular season. Well, right now they are putting on a clinic in this game and looking to stake their claim on the LEC title, especially after seeing G2 falter so much yesterday against Mad Lions.
For sure. You know, you've got to remember that Fnatic, when they played up against Mad in Week 9, they looked like clear. Ooh, Rekkles is in danger now.
Oh no, but he's got the Chrono Shift. Here comes the teleport. Fnatic always willing to take a fight. Bwipo's going to join the fray. Rekkles locked against the wall, though, and can't really get away. He heals up. The True Shot Barrage doesn't connect him. Rekkles is still alive. Eventually he falls, but the double bomb finds 2 targets, and now Bwipo's jumping forward onto Upset. Upset, you got to stay alive. Destiny's trying to jump around, dodge as much as he can, but Nemesis lands the shot and gets the kill. The knock-up as well. That's 3 quick kills, 4 quick kills over to Fnatic. They only lose Rekkles, and they still have a Rift Herald to boot.
So Origen, they're not going to get perfect gamed. They're able to take down Rekkles, but that's the only consolation prize they're going to get as Fnatic find themselves 4. They take down the tier 2 tower. They have their eyes set on the tier 3 in mid, but they're not going to overcommit. They're going to push their waves and look to reset. And here we see, this is Rekkles overextending, right? He is clearly overstepping his bounds. The rest of his team is not in a position to assist him, but look how much time Hylissang's ultimate buys. It also puts him straight back to full health. He goes back of 1,174, and he just buys so much time, and now the rest of Fnatic have arrived. OG is sitting there being like, how come we can't kill anyone? And Fnatic is just like, well, let us show you how it's done. Origen ends up getting wiped off the map, 4 members go down, and Fnatic, they've now extended themselves to what, 8k? Is that 9k gold lead?
Yeah, 9,000 gold lead, 19 minutes in. This game is about as one-sided as a game can be. Upset has finished his Trinity Force. Rushed that instead of getting the Manamune, wants the immediate damage instead of the stacking Manamune. But apart from that, the only other completed item is a Sunfire Cape. Well, there's 3 completed items. Sunfire Cape and the Athenes alongside the Cinder Hulk on Xerxe. So when you look at Fnatic and they have 2 completed items on most of their players, I'm pretty sure I know which way this one's going, Betty.
It would require a pretty monumental throw from Fnatic.
A satchel charge level of throw, you might say.
I'm not going to comment on that. But the Ocean Salt is going to be the one on the board. Fnatic obviously in prime position to secure that one. And as you're saying, the later this game goes, I think it only gets harder. the funny thing about Fnatic's comp is normally when you look at Senna comps, you sit there and go, oh, their Baron is actually quite slow, but because you have Yasuo, it's not. Like, he's one of the best champions for taking Baron because his Wind Wall is able to mitigate a lot of the damage that the Baron throws out, but also he's going Blade of the Ruin King. His Infinity Edge is likely going to be the next item on the docket, and he's in a great position to be able to just burn that down. So Fnatic, once they get to that 3-item point, wait, is Selfmade also building Death Cap? I mean, the dude's 503, I get it, but it looks like that he is just going all in when it comes to the damage.
It's dark technology. I believe it could be Zhonya's? No, it's not. It's Death Cap.
Not.
It's just Death Cap. Yeah, it's 100%.
He does have the components for Zhonya's, but there's no need to build it now because he's like, I still have my stopwatch, so why waste it? Like, I'm going to get maximum efficiency right now. Instead, I'm going to build towards my Death Cap.
Well, you might as well do it if you're this far ahead. More damage means enemies are dead, and the best form of CC is death, as we all know, Vedius. Origen trying to defend their, well, in all 3 lanes right now. Hylissang is solo against Upset. That's a Twin Shadows, fully stacked Rod of Ages, Zilean, forcing Upset back in the lane. And the problem for Upset is, yes, you've got Cleanse, but you don't cleanse the damage from the bombs. Hylissang is going to be outputting a lot of DPS right now. It becomes very difficult for Upset to actually push out any further.
So, the other thing that we didn't touch on was that OG's comp is mostly AD as well. Where does the AP damage come from? Well, there's Yuumi, and I suppose you could argue Ornn, but because of that, Bwipo, look at his itemization medic. He's going full AD. Armor, rather. He is rushed as well the Warden's Mail, which, when you build into the Randuins, really helps against crit itemization. So the Gangplank in a side lane is made even weaker. So Fnatic, I think, are itemizing optimally. They are able to win 5v5. They win on a side lane. Like, I struggle to find a way in which OG can come back into this game outside of Fnatic just monumentally running it down.
Yeah, and I think anyone would agree with you there, Vedius. I feel this is a GG go next for Origen, go reevaluate the draft. It's still a best of 5, right? You can still come back in the rest of the games. You have many opportunities, and even if you lose here, you go down to the loser's bracket. You're still not out of it. But after seeing this draft play out the way it has, I think Origen will be reevaluating a lot of things. Rekkles just about to take over to 100 stacks now on the Senna, which is incredibly strong. 22 minutes in, it's a pretty fast farm on that as well. Yep. But you get an extra 125 range at 100 stats. So, yeah, it's going to be hard for anyone to get.
Can he one-shot Upset? Can he do it? He's not going to get the opportunity.
He has got the Death Cap.
I mean, yeah, he's level 13, and he has Death Cap. I reckon he can just one-shot him.
It's actually pretty disgusting to watch the way this game is concluding. Nemesis is going to land the knock-up here onto Alphari in the bottom lane. Fnatic just constantly putting pressure in all 3 lanes, which is, you know, good map play by them. They know no one can match Nemesis solo, so Origen will try and match Selfmade, but uses the body slam after seeing the pillar go up. And Rekkles and Hylissang have the movement speed to get over here really quickly.
I mean, so Fnatic have a lot of options right now, right? They could wait for the Ocean Soul if they wanted to. I honestly think that they're strong enough to set up a dive onto one side of the map if they wanted. Right now, they're playing on all 3 lanes, and they're trying to chip away at these towers, so they're kind of taking their time, knowing that they win every 1v1 and 2 versus 2. And by keeping Origen thin, you also avoid the risk of Origen finding a collapse onto a single member, getting a big shutdown, and maybe finding a way back into this game. But yeah, as you can see, they're just taking the slow, controlled approach. They're taking advantage of Senna's range. They're trying to keep Origen as far away from each other, and now Origen are looking for a play.
Yeah, Xerxe going in with the subjugate. There's the exhaust, but teleports immediately from Fnatic. Final chapter blocked by the wind wall, and here comes Bwipo jumping in. Another teleport used by Hylissang as he wants to join the fight. Last breath from Nemesis onto the backline, and Hylissang's here now in case Bwipo falls. But Bwipo's still alive, still maintaining that HP bar just about as he heals up with the final little bloblet. Fnatic still only sit at 1 death, and even when Origen tried to go for that full engage, Fnatic were able to answer.
Yeah, so that wasn't the cleanest fight from Fnatic, but you can see, given the gold advantage that they have, it still wasn't enough for Origen to be able to capitalize on. Fnatic will look to reset now and then go for the next Drake, secure themselves the Ocean Soul, and Origen, I just don't think they're in a position to contest it. They could look for a 5v5 and just accept that if we lose the Ocean Soul, then there's no way that we're going to win. But honestly, when you look at a 5v5, it's definitely a desperation play because they don't really have many other options left.
Oh, that's it. Slowed up. Last Embrace going to lock him in place as well. The Dawning Shadow comes out and Rekkles gets the kill. Selfmade with a smite for the assist. And Nukeduck now has to retreat back behind his tower. And without a jungler, you have to feel Origen cannot contest this dragon. Ocean Drake with a Blade of the Ruin King on Yasuo with a Zac as well is actually just going to be disgusting to watch here, Vedius.
Yeah,
it really is.
I'm just surprised, right? Because, I mean, I was one of the, we heard the analysts there saying, like, this is going to be really one-sided. Frost was like, I think Fnatic's just going to smash Origen. And I was more of the opinion that I think, well, okay, I think Origen actually preps really well for best of fives. I think that the first game is going to be really telling for how they're going to approach to deal with Fnatic. And then they just get stomped. They just get absolutely obliterated. Not only in the draft, but also in the execution of everything. It's just, like, I didn't think there was this much of a gap. Now, again, of course, it's a best of five, right? There's still many games left to go. Perhaps OG wanted to see what would happen if they left the Senna open, and if you remove it, do you think that solves the problems? Like, I don't know. But Origen are going to have to ask a lot of questions now because they can't afford to just blind pick this Ornn, for example, moving into the next game because Fnatic clearly have an answer to it. I think the priorities are going to dramatically shift. And yeah, I think it's going to be super interesting. So anyway, Fnatic are starting the Baron up. The rest of Fnatic is zoning Origen away.
That's his dead. That's without, it's without Zac and without Yasuo even in the fight. Nukeduck calls down the Forge God but misses. Stretching strike from Bwipo on the backline will land on 2. Alphari has to flash away, but the chase is on. And Alphari, you've got nowhere to go. Another kill to Fnatic. They're just going to look to end the game right here, Vedius.
I mean, they can. The death timers are still quite short. But given that they do have the Ocean Soul, they're still all at full health. Bwipo is at level 16. Nemesis is at level 16. They have all 5 members running it down the mid lane. They have a pretty big wave. Medic, I think they are looking to, in fact, end it right now.
14 kills to 1. A 13,000 gold lead. 4 dragons to 1. 4 dragons to nil. 6 turrets to nil. And Fnatic aren't stopping yet. Xerxe rooted up with the last embrace, but the Nexus has to be the target here for Fnatic. This was a demolition. A clinic from Fnatic in game 1.
It's just a massacre. Like, it was just a one-sided massacre from draft execution to gameplay. Like, Fnatic look clean. The debate was happening after regular season that who is the strongest, right? Is it G2 or is it Fnatic, right? When they had their best of ones during the regular season, it was close. But Fnatic right now in this playoffs, based off this one game, this massive sample size, Fnatic made Origen not look like a 3rd seed in the LEC. So we'll have to see if Origen can change things up moving into the rest of this series, because right now Fnatic is looking like a dominant force, a storm that cannot be stopped. And the question that we had was, will Origen be a pebble on the stepping stones for Fnatic to challenge and reclaim their title, or will Origen be a wall? And right now, they just feel like a pebble.
I think they feel like less than a pebble right there, but if you want more takeaways from Game 1, be sure to join our analysts after the break.